Does fat make you fat? I'm Kylie from Food, Mood and More. Let's just have a little chat about that. There's a myth that's been around for decades now, and I'd like to do a little bit of myth busting today. So the myth says that fat makes you fat and it causes heart disease. Now, there was a low-fat recommendation released by many governments around the world back around 1977 through to about 1980. So we're talking a good 3 decades ago. And this recommendation was that everybody should be eating low-fat foods. Now, what this meant in practice was that suddenly we had all this low-fat dairy foods and we were all drinking skim milk and eating low-fat yogurt. And instead of using butter and lard to cook with or to spread on your toast, we were advised to use the vegetable and seed oils instead to cook with. Now, interestingly, there was very little obesity prior to this time, and there were also very low rates of heart disease. And the obesity epidemic that we face these days in the 2017 as I'm speaking now has really developed since these guidelines came into place. So somebody's got it wrong somewhere. Is it us or is it the recommendation? So the trouble with taking fat out of food is that fat adds flavour to the food. It makes it taste good. Imagine that mouth feel that you get when you're eating a block of chocolate or a piece of chocolate, depending on who you are. And you get that lovely creamy sort of taste in your mouth. That's the mouthfeel that fat provides. And it does give us this rich, full taste. So if you're going to take all the fat out of food, how are you going to make it taste good? Well, what they did was they filled it up with sugar. So essentially what happened was low fat came to equal full of sugar. Now, when I think about it, I think about France, one of my absolute favourite countries in the world. And in France, they eat a very high-fat diet. In fact, this is a country that produces over 400 different types of cheese, full-fat cheese, not low-fat. So you've got these people who eat a very high-fat diet, and yet they have a very low rate of heart disease, one of the lowest in the world, in fact. And this is such a conundrum that it's even got a title. It has a name, and it's called the French paradox. And it's been investigated as to how French people can eat so much fat in their diet and not be overweight. They have very little obesity in France, and have such low rates of heart disease. So something's wrong in these recommendations, and it begs the question of, is it the fat or is it the sugar that's been added? So when you look at our biochemistry and the way our body actually works, we need fat for so many different functions in the body. But in particular, let's just touch on a couple of those. Hormones. We need fat to make hormones. And I can tell you, if your body is not making hormones well, you are one very unhappy camper. So that's a big thing. We need fat to provide hormones. Our brains. Now, our brains actually consist of 60% fat. And think about a baby. I mean, this is the time where the brain is growing the most rapidly, the fastest of any time in our life is from a baby through infanthood. And breast milk just happens to be very high in fat. Now, do you think that Mother Nature would have designed an organ that is made up of so much fat and pre-made perfect food to feed this child, to feed this growing brain that is high in fat? I don't know. You make up your own mind. Now, fat is very energy dense as well, and this is one of the reasons why it was kind of demonized back in the 1970s and 80s, was because the theory was that because fat has so many calories, if you're eating more fat, you're actually going to gain weight. But it does make it a very good energy source if you're not providing so much sugar in the diet as well. We need fat to absorb certain vitamins from our food. So some vitamins are what's called fat soluble, and this means that they need fat at the same time in order to be absorbed by your body. So I actually have a mantra that I tell all of my clients, and that is that no vegetable should ever be eaten without a fat added to it. And usually this is butter or olive oil, and I'll talk a bit more about what to eat in a moment. But no vegetable should be eaten without fat. Okay. Fat also decreases your hunger speeds up your metabolism and burns the fat off your body. Okay? Whereas when you're eating low fat, you're actually hungry all the time, your metabolism slows down, and you're actually in fat storing mode and not fat burning mode. So if you are actually looking to lose weight, eating more fat is a great strategy. And finally, for today, that flavour issue again. So if you want your food to taste good, it's got to have some fat in it. Okay, so what type of fat should you be eating? Because not all fat is created equal. So let's look first at the good fats, and we're talking about things like avocado. We want olive oil, not the seed oils like your canola oil or your sunflower oil or things like that, or your standard vegetable oil or Crisco even, but good quality olive oil. And ideally you want that to be cold pressed olive oil. So there's no heat being used in extracting the oil from the olives. When it comes to seeds and nuts, your best ones are walnuts, chia seeds and flax seeds. Fish. Fish is a great one, and very specifically we want the fatty types of fish. So this is salmon and sardines, mackerel, herring. Find one that you like or get that acquired taste, because this is so good for you. Butter, as I said before, get rid of those vegetable oils, slather butter onto whatever you want, it's good for you. And finally, coconut oil really stimulates fat burning in the body. It provides the fats that your brain needs for proper functioning. So if you want to think clearer, have a better memory and be more focused, then get some coconut oil in. Now, what's the worst fat that you can eat? It's sweet fat. So what's that? What's sweet fat? This is fat that's also combined with sugar and starches. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about donuts and bakery type items. I'm talking about hot chips and French fries, and very sadly, I'm talking about ice cream as well. So it's this special combination of fat, sugar and starch that actually creates the biggest problem in our bodies. So if you change nothing else, add in some of those good fats, get rid of the sweet fat, and things are going to start happening for you. Okay, that's all for today. I hope I've busted that fat makes you fat myth. Until next time, this is Kylie. See you then.